All right, today we're jumping into a cybersecurity ecosystem that is, well, it's really something else. It's incredibly powerful, but it has a collection of names that, let's just say, they get your attention.
I mean, just look at a few of these. Abyss, Reaper, Oblivion, Grave. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is the set list for a death metal concert, not a suite of sophisticated software tools. So you gotta ask, what is going on here? And that's where things get really interesting, because the source material describes this whole thing as, yes, powerful and ominous sounding, but also safe by design. How on earth can a toolkit with names that sound like they want to destroy the world actually be built around the idea of safety? That's the puzzle we're going to solve.
So, let's step into what the creators themselves call the death way. And yeah, the name sounds pretty forbidding, but as you're about to see, this is a path that's paved, believe it or not, with purely defensive intentions.
You see, the only way to really get this ecosystem is to understand its core philosophy. Because hiding behind that scary, heavy metal exterior is this incredibly disciplined, almost obsessive focus on safety. Every single tool, it doesn't matter what it's called, is built from the ground up on one simple rule: do no harm.
And that golden rule is this: read only by default. Think of these tools as ghosts in the machine. They are designed to see everything, to report on everything they see, but they absolutely cannot touch or change a single thing. They are purely observers, not actors.
And here's a perfect example of that in practice. Think about network discovery. The old way is to actively probe the network, sending out packets, poking and prodding to see what's out there. But that can be noisy, disruptive, and can even cause outages. The Omicron way is just to listen. It quietly builds a complete map of the entire network just by observing the traffic that's already there, without ever sending a single packet of its own. It's totally passive and totally safe.
And that read-only idea is just one of the pillars here. The whole system is explicitly defensive. Any of the scary-sounding offensive simulations, they can only run in a completely sealed-off lab environment, period. The state is immutable. It can't be changed. And maybe most importantly, every single action is logged, audited, and can be mathematically proven to be safe.
Okay, so with those core principles locked in, let's actually take a quick tour of the arsenal. We're going to look at a few of these tools and see just how this safe-by-design philosophy actually works in the real world.
First up, let's talk about visibility, the art of seeing without touching. This little snippet here is for really low-impact system monitoring. For tracking performance and firing off alerts. So what do you call a tool that does that? You call it
Wraith Observe, right? A wraith is a ghost, a specter. It's the perfect name for a tool that's designed to observe a system's every move without ever leaving a footprint.
Okay, next up, control. How does the system make sure everyone plays by the rules? Well, this library uses what's called policy as code to set hard limits on what a program can and cannot do. Like here, it's allowing network discovery, but it's flat out denying any kind of modification. The tool that enforces these critical life and death safety rules is, of course, called Grave Policy.
And this is just a perfect example of the whole philosophy in a nutshell. The tool that's literally named for death is the very thing that keeps the entire system safe and sound by enforcing the rules.
Sticking with control, what about keeping a record of what happened? This library creates a perfect tamper-proof log of every event. Once a log is written, it can never be changed, never be deleted. It's the ultimate forensic record. So they named it
Oblivion.audit, because every action is sent to a kind of oblivion, a permanent state where it can never be altered or forgotten. It creates the ultimate source of truth.
And finally, let's look at preparation. How do you practice for real-world attacks without, real-world consequences? This library lets you spin up a digital twin, a perfect sandboxed copy of your entire environment where you can train and run exercises safely. And the name for that is
Sentinel.lab. A sentinel is a guardian, a watcher, and that's exactly what this tool does. It stands guard over a safe laboratory where your teams can learn, test, and prepare for the worst without any risk.
And inside that safe lab, you need to simulate some pretty nasty stuff.
So this next tool lets you create and run realistic attack scenarios based on known adversary playbooks, like a phishing attempt that spreads across the network. The tool for that is called Harrow.rules. And you bet the scenarios it creates can be harrowing, but they are 100% contained within the safe walls of the Sentinel's lab. It's a way to go through a worst-case scenario without anything actually bad happening.
So, we've seen a few of these tools in action now, right? But now I want you to zoom out with me, because it's the scale of this whole thing that's really mind-blowing.
We've just scratched the surface. There are 111 of these libraries in total. 111. This isn't just a handful of clever tools with edgy names. It's a massive, comprehensive, and totally integrated system for defensive cybersecurity.
So, let's answer our first question. What is the Deathway? Well, it's a complete defensive ecosystem. It's a philosophy of being safe by design. It's a whole suite of tools for seeing, controlling, and preparing. And ultimately, it's an ethical framework for building and using incredibly powerful cybersecurity tools responsibly.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That quote should make perfect sense now. The tools are absolutely powerful. The names are definitely ominous, but the entire system, from top to bottom, is fundamentally safe by design.
And this final quote really nails it. The whole system looks forbidding, but what it actually does is enforce ethics, proofs, and safety. Its bark is so much worse than its bite. In fact, you know what? It has no bite at all, only eyes.
And that really just leaves us with one big question to chew on. Is this philosophy, this intense focus on proofs, on auditability, on being safe by default, is this the future? Is this how all critical software should be built from now on? It's definitely something worth thinking about.